It's beautiful to have slowly built a tradition in our hometown. I love the history of the evening, the history of the Ryman, a place where soulful things happen, and those evenings feel soulful to me.
Thank y'all for having us here.
Welcome home.
You know what? The first time I was here, I'm like, this house feels like the homiest home I've ever been in. And Vince goes, it's all Amy.
Aw,
It's true.
thank you.
Yeah. We were wondering if you have all of these guitars here because they're parting gifts when we leave.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be a good thing. But you know what? One of the reasons I have them all here is I lost so many in the flood.
That makes sense.
You know, and I said I don't really want them to be in cases far away anymore. You know, I lost a lot of instruments, and I was going through the carnage of them all being destroyed, and I would look down and say, that guitar played the intro to One More Last Chance, that guitar played the this to that, and the solo to this, and blah, blah, blah. And that's, you know, it's kind of my calendar in a way, my book of photographs or whatever. And, you know, they all did something that contributed to my life. Somebody will come in here and say, oh, this is over the top, this guy's got a hoarding problem. But I said, well, if I told you some of the stories behind some of these instruments, you'd change your mind about how excessive this really looks, because it isn't, you know. I just love them. I don't have boats, I don't have more cars, I don't have anything else. This is what I love most, and they're having a musical life. They're not behind a case somewhere that some collector has where they don't ever get played again, you know. I think people enjoy seeing me wind up with a family heirloom instrument because they know it'll have a musical life.
What is your favorite story like this about one of these guitars? What's your favorite?
There's several. There's a Fender over there that I got from the family of a gentleman named Jabbo Arrington. Jabbo was the first guitar player for Little Jimmy Dickens when Jimmy came to the Opry. And Jabbo died back then, back in the early 50s. And that guitar sat under a bed for 60 years. And his family tracked me down. They saw I played a guitar like it, and they said, do you know who our relative was? He played with Little Jimmy, and I knew who he was. And they said, would you be interested in buying his guitar? And it's a really rare guitar. It's the first year of Fender electric guitars, made in 1950. And it's called a Broadcaster. And I said, well, of course I would, you know. So they came to the Opry, and we met at the Opry and made the deal and paid them. And it was a good bit of money. And they said, our dream is to see that guitar played at the Opry one more time. I said, well, I can make that happen. So Jimmy was still around, and I went to Jimmy and I said, hey, I just bought Jabbo's guitar. And he said, you've got Jabbo's guitar? And I said, yes, sir. And he says, I want it. I said, well, okay, this is what I paid for it. And he said, I don't want it that bad. And so I went out and played with him, you know, that night at the Opry, and the family's all over there boo-hooing, and it was a great moment and beautiful and full circle and all that. And so fast forward a few years later, and Jimmy passed away. And they asked me if I would come and sing Go Rest High at his memorial, you know, out at the Opry House. Of course, I took that guitar and played Go Rest High on it, told the story of the guitar and how I acquired it, and that it was Jimmy's guitar player, Jabbo's guitar, when Jimmy first came to the Opry. And I said, this is the guitar that brought him here. It should be the guitar that takes him out of here. And everybody's like, you know, all this stuff. And beautiful moment out at the Opry House at Jimmy's service. And so I get home, and I just walked in the door, and the phone rings, and I pick it up. Hello, and he said, Vince, this is Merle Haggard. I said, well, hi, Merle. He said, listen, what I just watched you do for that man was unbelievable. This is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And Merle's my hero, you know. And he said, I don't cry. He said, but what you did, he said, I can't quit crying, and I don't cry. Do you hear me? He said, I don't cry, and I can't quit crying. And he said, I want that guitar. And I said, well, you can't have it either.
You didn't give him a price?
No, I said, you can borrow it anytime you want, but it's kind of special to me now, you know. And because of stories like that, you know, people would look in here and see 12 of the same kind of instrument, but not have any idea what's behind some of those stories.
I think there's probably worse things you could hoard.
Yeah,
I mean, Amy, all these could be cats. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
are any of these guitars on the new Christmas album?
Of course they are. We'll record in here, right? And the guys will all come around. The other couple of guitar players that'll be playing on the records and stuff, and they'll go by and they'll plunk on a guitar and say, "Hey, can I play this?" I said, "Yeah." So they all get used on the records and they all get played, and it's,
And even if it's not being played, you know, all the wood vibrates.
they're all singing.
So, this is your first joint Christmas album?
And really, what we wanted to do was, in a way, just celebrate on a project. You know, most of it are earlier recordings, but we've never put anything out together. And now we've done over 100 Christmas shows at the Ryman. And those evenings are just us going back and forth. And we thought, well, we should just have a Christmas record, and nostalgic doing it in vinyl the way we do these Christmas shows, because we've done many, many Christmas shows. You know, there's a new version where we're both singing on Till the Season Comes Around Again, and then one brand new Christmas song. But the whole point of it was just Christmas is so much a part of really our only consistent performance together, and feels like such a Nashville coming together. It's a beautiful way to spend time with people you love and want to celebrate the Christmas season with. And so we were just trying to kind of use songs that we do at the Ryman and take what we already have and create something that is reflective of what we do every year.
Very cool. Tell us about the new Christmas song.
The brand new one, When I Think of Christmas, is a song that was written, that was initially recorded by Matt Maher. Matt said, "Hey, would you come? I'm working on a Christmas record. Will you come listen?" And I said, "Yeah, do you just want me to go like, fantastic, fantastic, he's a great writer, or do you want me to say anything back?" And he said, "No, I want your input." And I listened to that song and I said, "Well, you shot yourself in the foot with that killer second verse." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, everything needs to come up to that. And he said, "Well, will you go write it?" And so he just invited me into an existing song. And then he sang it and did a wonderful, big production of that song. But music is, the great thing about music is it's a shared experience, but it's also very private and personal. And so a song can have two completely different lives. One is the big rah, you know, everybody's in it together. I always go, how would this sound if I were just singing it for an audience of one? And Christmas especially does have those moments of togetherness, but also at the end of a year, everybody always kind of does an assessment. What faces do I miss this year? What is the future going to look like now? It's kind of the best and worst of everything, like life all the time. Anyway, so we just took it a different production route, and it's sentimental, and I get pitched Christmas songs all the time.
You do.
And this would be great to record, and I'm like, oh my, I'm sort of embarrassed that I've made 4 Christmas records already. This compilation is the 5th. And but that song that Matt wrote, it's special.
It feels like it when you hear it. More than, I mean, it sounds like it, but it feels like it. Like you can feel it like inside when you listen to it.
I like hearing that.
It's true, that it's lovely. Talk about how you landed on the other songs for this record. There's lots of Christmas songs. You've done this residency 15 times now.
Yes.
You've sang a couple Christmas songs over the years. Like,
Right.
Are there stories attached to the ones that you chose?
Well, a lot of mine are original, and I mean, Vince makes everything sound fantastic. He is a modern day crooner, and we were trying to pick songs that reflected what we did in the live show. And so if somebody came to a Ryman show, and they wanted to say, oh, I want to remember how this evening felt, we wanted what was on that record to be reminiscent of the evening.
So going into, is this at season 15? the 15 times that you've done this, what keeps you coming back to the Ryman at Christmas?
I love the history. I love the history of the evening, the history of the Ryman. You've said it many times. It was built as a church house and a place where soulful things happen, and those evenings feel soulful to me. It's beautiful to have slowly built a tradition in our hometown. And, you know, like every year sometimes we'll say, should we be done with this? Like, where's the 35, 40-something-year-old who wants to step up and do this? But like nobody's stepping up yet. And so we go, well, I guess we're still holding the baton. But we just try to take it just one season at a time. And it still feels like our time to be doing this.
I don't think anybody's going to step up and say, you know what, I'm going to take this away from Amy and Vince. It's my turn now. Y'all, I don't know that's going to happen. It's like you've started a family tradition that you share with Middle Tennessee.
I love hearing it like that.
You know, it's like, what are your favorite memories? Do you have favorite memories from the years doing that show?
I feel like I'm doing all the talking.
Well, way more interesting.
Well, a couple of years ago, Jason Barton's one of the singers, and he's sung almost every one of those residencies, and he had a horrific head injury. An engine exploded in front of him, and and I went to see him in the ICU, and I knew he needed to hear things that I had needed to hear after the accident when I was in a recovery situation. And I just said, we got your spot, and it's going to take a while, but nobody's going to fill your shoes at Christmas time. And that year, whew.
When he came back, it was awesome. Yeah.
And, you know, he was just like holding hands of the other vocalists. And recovery, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's from addiction, from an accident, from sadness, from any kind of loss. And life is all about recovery. It just is. And just how we can be there for each other. And to me, Jason on that stage was like, it just represented so much. And we've had like busloads of people brought in from different communities, maybe that had a hurricane or a tornado, or I mean, it's just, and sometimes last year, I can't remember what it was, but we took a portion of all the tickets and made a gift. Oh, it was in honor of the man that started Room at the Inn.
Yeah.
And that was just like, what a Nashville
Charles
tradition. Yes.
Yeah.
And so it does feel like family. You know, all of us from Nashville, Middle Tennessee, we experience hardship and challenges, and it's great to show up for each other.
For sure. When you do new tours every year, people think about, how am I going to change it this year? How am I going to make it different? But with Christmas, I feel like it goes both ways. You're like, this is a tradition and we're going to do it the same way every year, or we have to change it and make it different so people keep coming back. Like, how do you approach the Christmas show?
I mean, we try to revamp it. One thing that people love about Christmas, as you said, is familiarity.
I mean, you think about it, we've sung these songs now for over 30 years. That spirit of familiarity is in us just as much as it, you know, we heard all these songs growing up, but we've also sung them half our lives. And with repetition comes memories and thoughts, and it's just remarkable how, you know, some of these old songs are so relevant every time you sing them, you know, and they're beautiful, and they have the longevity they have because they were so great. I can't even fathom doing a Christmas show and not singing Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire. It just wouldn't feel normal. So to me, there's so many of them that you have to do, and not because you know dread having you look forward. You know, I look forward to singing that song every time I sing it because it's a really cool crooner song, and it's fun to sing. I want people to think it's Frank Sinatra up there singing those songs, you know. I want to sing it like that. I want to sing it authentically. I don't want to sound like a country guy singing Chestnuts Roasting on a Fire, you know. So authenticity is the key to me all things musical that matter.
Can you talk about working together? Because you still seem like you like each other, you know, and that's the lovely thing.
As Vince said, it's because we both travel so much.
Always glad to see each other.
I mean, he makes everything sound better. His guitar playing, his singing. I trust you so much musically. Last year, Vince could come to none of the rehearsals, and I put together the set list, what I thought would go well together, and we ran through everything one time, a long sound check. And at the end, he said, "Hey, can I change that set list?" And I went, "Yeah, it wasn't happening, was it?" And he's thinking tempo, key. I'm always thinking storyline. So in my mind, it's the lyric arc, and in his, it's musically where it goes. And I think that's a nice combo. And he just wrote out his, and I went, "Oh yeah, that's what we needed." Yeah, I was totally lame without you. It's fun. I'm not sure how we fell into this, but I'm glad we did.
Yeah, me too.
What other Christmas traditions do you share as a family?
There's not a whole lot of extra time, since it's the hardest working time. We try to enjoy a Christmas movie. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Always, this is not Vince's hit parade thing, but we always do gingerbread houses. The family I was born into and the family that we have, everybody loves being creative. So we're a blended family, 5 kids and significant others. They just each draw one name for a Christmas gift. And everybody's so creative with what they give. And so Christmas morning, there's a lot of, okay, here's the gift from sibling to sibling or brother-in-law to, yeah. And that's lovely. It's lovely that intention and effort is what matters, really.
So do you all still get together on Christmas morning? All the kids come? Well, that's a pretty important tradition,
It is, yes,
I would think. And you have grandchildren now, too.
yes.
It starts a little later than it used to.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, when you have kids, you still want to feel like the kid. And for the young parents, it's like, I don't want to just be the parent. You're still alive. I want to feel like the kid. And to me, that's the beautiful thing about generational gathering, is we are the old guard in our family. And it's so nice to, in that drinking out of a fire hose, tough time in life that it is for our kids right now with young families. That's hard work. And it's just nice to get to care for them.
I'm sure they greatly appreciate that.
Don't we all? Everybody wants to feel cared for. Everybody does.
Well, Vince, we started talking about
Yeah.
playing with the Eagles at the Sphere. It's like everybody I know in Nashville, it's like they're not coming here to see you. They're going to Las Vegas. Tell me about playing in the big dome.
It's the most people I've ever been ignored by when I'm playing. You're playing and they're looking at all the stuff on the ceiling. They're not paying any attention to you. Music to me has never been visual. And the whole point of that show and that building is the visual side of it. I never wanted to see anybody running around on the stage and yelling at me and being aerobic and bombs going off and pyro and whatever. And it's a great show. A great show to me is watching Merle Haggard stand there singing me great song after great song after great song. And it's still what I want to hear when I go to hear music. I don't necessarily go to see it.
So you wouldn't buy a ticket to the Sphere to see a band?
Well, I can't say that yet. I might get in trouble for saying that. but I get it that it's it's equally as visual for a lot of people.
More so, almost.
Yeah, and this thing is all about the visual. I went to see the Beatles Love show in Vegas. I think it was called Love, and I didn't like it. I just said, I just want to hear these great songs.
The Cirque du Soleil
Yeah,
version.
exactly. I see Volkswagens flying around through the air, and I go, I don't want to see that. I loved hearing the music. That's what the music is for me to paint the pictures. I never liked videos, in my career when I had to go make a video and all that. I go, no, that doesn't make any sense. You got to paint your own pictures to what these songs mean to you. And so it's foreign to me, but it's still fun. You can't even imagine the magnitude of the size of what this is. You know, it's like if you took an arena and chopped it in half, and you're playing to the one half of the arena, the whole back half of that arena is the content. The stage is about this big, and then all the stuff to the sides and up to the ceiling and on the ceiling is 15, 20 times bigger than all of that. It's staggeringly massive. Occasionally at sound check they were running the content that goes with the songs and all that. I was getting loopy. I was getting kind of where I felt like I was going to fall over because things are tilting and you think you're moving, but you're not.
It's like in traffic when a car is moving, you think you're going backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Am I moving? No. But it's pretty impressive, you know, I must say. It is enjoyable.
Well, right before that, right, you did your residency at the Ryman where it was you and your music and the
We
guitar.
didn't have anything in the back.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty big contrast between the two, right? Like, how do you bounce between the two, the Ryman and the Sphere?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same. I'm playing and singing. It don't matter where I'm at. You know, all I can do is what I do. I've said this my whole life. A great show is really dependent upon the crowd, not on the artist. The artist's going to play and sing the way they play and sing. And then if you catch that wave of adrenaline and excitement and you lift a crowd up and it lifts you up, and it's an amazing thing. It's like how a team can get lifted in a sporting event by the enthusiasm of a crowd, how it can push, and that's all real stuff. And it happens to musicians too, and all of a sudden you got this adrenaline going and you play better than you've ever played on a certain night or whatever, and it's really intoxicating to have a great crowd on your side. Nothing like it in the whole wide world. It's amazing.
Now, when you played the Ryman, we got to hear a whole lot of new music, and it was brilliant. So when do we get to hear it again? Like, I know you told me there's new music coming, new album coming.
I've written a whole lot of songs in the last three or 4 years, only because I'm inspired. I feel like I'm doing my best work now than I did even in the heyday of my success, and I should be better. You know, I've done it longer and I've had more experience. I know what not to do and all those kinds of things. And I've written probably 125, 140 songs in the last 2 or 3 years. And I'm 67 now, and I don't, you know, I'm being practical. I'm a truth teller, and I'm practical and common sense. And I don't know how long I'll have where I have my faculties at the best they've ever been like they are now. I play better than I ever have, or sing better, any of that stuff. And so I'm wanting to bank all of these songs while I still have the best that I have to offer. And however I trot them out, I don't even know how that's going to look. You know, the days of a 10-song record are pretty long gone. You know, even though we're doing that, we're releasing a new record and it's on vinyl, and it's kind of a throwback to what we all grew up with and know and love and all that. But I mean, I could put all those songs out at one time. I could put 4 out at one time. I could put 25 out at one time. There aren't any rules anymore, and that's kind of fun.
But your focus hasn't even really been on putting it out. It's just been on trying to
accomplish it.
Record it.
Yeah.
The thing that I thought was so interesting is I've been doing this a long time, and everybody always says this is my best music yet. And most of the time it's not. But at the Ryman, when I go and I hear these songs, it's like, no, these are that good. And it's sad that people haven't got to hear them on a wider scale.
That's okay. I got to hear them, you know, and that's always been enough for me. You know, the results didn't shape me when I had no success, and they didn't shape me when I had a lot of success, and they're not going to shape me again. If I see the improvement in myself, and my ears never lie, they've never lied to me. They tell me what's good and what isn't. They're a good barometer of that, of just what I like. You know, that's all I really have to go on, is what I prefer and what I like and what I choose to do and not to do. And sometimes what you don't do is more important than what you do, you know. So I'm in a tremendous place, and it feels amazing. I'm not in a hurry. to get them done. I recorded 46 songs last year. I haven't even gotten around to singing any of them yet, you know, and I need to, and I will. But, you know, once again, in all this stretch of time, nobody's knocked on my door looking for the next record, so nobody else is in a big hurry for me either.
Amy, you were looking at him like you've had something
I
to
was
say.
just thinking about that one of the first sessions you ever played on, and you brought your guitar and going to town, but I can't remember exactly what the producer said.
I played my heart out, and when you're young, you want to do as much as you can, and that's really not the point of making a great record. And the producer got on the talk back, and he said, "Hey, that was impressive." He said, "Try it again." He goes, "This time, just play me half of what you know." I said, "Ouch, okay, point taken." But, you know, and that really is, I don't know that when you're young you understand that you don't have the patience to edit yourself. I mean, you're a writer. Have you written big stories and found yourself a lot easier as time has gone on to know what to leave out? Music's the same thing. You know, you try to say the most with the least. And those kinds of stories are great. You know, I was doing my first record and Emery Gordy was producing it, and it was a real traditional country song, and I'd never made my own solo record before. I'm out there singing as country as I can, you know, and going after it. And Emery talked back, says, "Hey, this sounded good." He said, "But just a quick heads up," he said, "we already have a George Jones, and you're not him." I said, "Ouch." I got to say ouch a lot in the studio. But he said, "Find a way to sing like you." He said, "Don't be an imitator. Best thing about great artistry is when Willie opens his mouth, you know it's Willie. When Merle Haggard opens his mouth, you knew it was Merle Haggard. When Paul McCartney opened his mouth, you knew it was Paul McCartney." And that's, when she sings, I know exactly who it is. And that's the thing for me, is voices are either interesting and compelling or not. You can sing the phone book, and it's not going to knock me out as much as if your voice is interesting. That's all I'm shooting for, is just doing the best I can with the gifts I've got.
Miss Amy, what are you working on? What's keeping you busy right now?
Life and touring. I do want to make another record, because I tour mostly singing songs that are 30 and 40 years old. And I love those old songs, but I have written enough to make a record right now and collected a couple of special songs that I'd love to record. So hopefully in 2025, I will get these songs recorded. The daughter we had together, Karina, every once in a while, she will say, "I'm so glad you and Dad have recorded your thoughts and songs," because we had her later in life. And she just said, "I'll always have that part of you." And I would love to say, hey, this is how life felt for me in my 60s. And it's not more important or less important than how it felt in my 30s and 40s, but it does change. Our perspective is always changing. And to me, that's a reason to keep writing and keep creating. And I love that we have been here at a time that so many of our musical heroes toured until the end. And because you can't recreate the music that you grew up with. And watching Joni Mitchell sing Both Sides Now on the Grammys last year, I was just like, I mean, how beautiful to see her in her early 80s sing a song that I've seen her do many times live, that represented her thoughts as a 20-something-year-old, and to go, oh my gosh, the truth in that song is still present, and she's singing it with the toolkit she has now. And that was beautiful. And I think that's part of the inspiration to say, just keep creating. Creativity is always a timeless opportunity. It takes time and effort, but it's never wasted effort, even if, like you said, if you're just doing it for yourself.
I feel like y'all have to write a book.
I gotta read a book.
No,
I write a book.
I think I've told you this before, but over the years, it's like every time I talk to your husband, he says something, and I think, that's kind of brilliant. And then I talk to another up-and-coming artist, I'm like, Vince Gill said. Vince Gill said. And it's normally the thing about playing fewer notes. It's like you don't have to play everything you know in a song, but I just think you're such a wealth of love and knowledge that everybody would benefit from having in one place.
Oh, man. Al Andrews, who started Porter's Call years ago, was teaching a class at Belmont University called Prehab. And to a lot of young creatives. And he asked me, and he's just asked so many artists to come and talk to them. What do you wish you had known? And what would you have done differently? Of course, I don't think any of us would opt to do anything differently because you learn the most from the stuff you do wrong, you know. Failure is a good teacher in all areas. And it was so inspiring to look at all of these young creatives. And I said, just real quickly, what does everybody want to do? And they just went in a phrase and said what they wanted. And I mean, it was, and all I could think was, whatever gifts and skills you have right now, they're just beginning. They're going to deepen and widen, and, you know, it's just, and life will take you where it takes you. And I do think older artists should always be in a circle with younger artists. You really had that. The Opry provides that. But I think it's so important to loop back around. I'll never forget, decades ago, hearing an older man on the Opry, and I talked to Vince afterwards, and I said, who was that old guy? No offense, he couldn't even carry a tune. And the Opry was not the world I grew up in. He said, well, as a matter of fact, he's in his mid-90s, and he's in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame, and it was just a miracle that he showed up. And I was like, okay, forgive me, I'm so sorry. You know, because I was just judging right there. I was just judging right there. And then shortly after that, I went with him to the Opry one time, and, you know, people bring their instruments and play backstage and everything. And somebody else came in, I didn't know who they were, and I was keeping my mouth shut, and I was like, okay, just. And he was older, and he said, let's play. And he pulled out a fiddle, and Vince said, I'm just following you, buddy, as long as you want to play. I mean, they played so long. They played a long time. Everybody left. I'm sure we were the last car in the parking lot, and finally the security came and said, we're just going to step on out, door lock behind you. They finished the last song, and we're walking, and I think, I have seen history right here. Whoever this is history, and I was the only one to watch it. This is what happens backstage at the Opry. We get all the way to the car, the door slams, and I said, my gosh, who was that? And Vince said, I have no idea.
Do you really not know?
It wasn't anybody who'd ever had a career. It was just somebody who was a...
Liked to play the fiddle, showed up backstage.
And I thought, even better.
If you're comfortable talking about it, I do want to ask you about Kris Kristofferson, since we just lost him.
Well, God, he changed the face of how songs were written here. The vocabulary of his depth was unheard of for here. I had a song that I'd written on a record of mine back in, gosh, 97 or something, and I put it out and never even thought about it. And one day I was listening to it, and it dawned on me it was the exact same melody as helped me make it through the night. I saw him and said, hey, I'm really sorry. I think I just completely aped one of your songs because I don't care. But I think it was last year at the Hall of Fame induction. Lisa let me take him with me, you know, to go out and sit in the crowd, and I was holding his hand, and he was long gone, lost, and all that, and it was a neat memory for me to have.
They were a great couple. He was a happy man.
I interviewed him once, and I remember him being very happy.
Yeah.
We were on the tour bus the day he passed. We just kept listening to song after song.
What's your go-to Kris Kristofferson song?
Me and Bobby McGee.
What about you, sir?
Can't go wrong. I got a long list.
Yeah.
I'm playing the Opry Saturday night, and I'll probably do a Kris tune or two. You know. I like to remember folks. But I like, you know, for the good times, it's pretty great. Help Me Make It Through the Night's pretty great. Why Me Lord's great. You know, once again, a great testament. Would you call this guy a great singer? Not necessarily, but the songs were so stinking great, nobody cared. You know, they're just so well done. And that's, you know, that's impressive, you know, to accomplish that legacy of songs. I love the story of him taking the helicopter out to Johnny's house, Johnny Cash's house, and he flew helicopters in Vietnam, I think, and decided he wanted to pitch Johnny Sunday morning coming down. He rented a helicopter and flew it out and landed it in Johnny's yard, and took him the tape, and Johnny heard it and
Did
loved
they
it.
know each other?
No, and Johnny winds up doing the song on the Johnny Cash show, and Johnny told Kris, they said they want me to change the line about being stoned on network TV. They don't want, they'll just, you know. And Kris said I was there, and I just, you know, wanting him to sing those words, and he did. He just basically told him to go to hell. Sang it anyway.
I love it. Can you imagine? What are you going to do if a helicopter lands in your yard? You know?
Amen.
Well, thank y'all so much for having us
Yeah, buddy.
today. This was lovely.
Thank you.